In this lab, we're going to use ChatGPT to assess the internal rate of return of different capital budgeting scenarios. So let's go ahead and start a new chat. We can just click on this or type in start a new chat. And then we're going to go ahead and provide it some parameters that we're going to use. So we're going to ask specifically what is the internal rate of return if the zero cash outflow, that means we're going to pay $50,000 today, and have a year 1 through 7 cash inflow of $10,000. So each year, $10,000. And we're going to see what that looks like. The internal rate of return is the interest rate that equalizes the two, right? When you're looking at a time value of money calculation, you're calculating in this case for R. And so we're going to say, what rate of return are we getting? And so if we put that in, we're going to get our answer here and see what rate that actually is or would be. And it says we're solving for R, and R is that interest rate. It gives us the formulas that are supposed to be used. So we've got all this information, but we're solving for R, and it says R is 9.2%. So, for example, if the cost of funds is 5% and we're getting a return of 9.2%, probably invest unless we have some better, or unless this is too high of risk. So those are still some things we need to assess. Now we're going to change it up just a little bit. We're going to say, hey, what if these are just estimates? Instead of 50,000, hey, what if this was somewhere between 40 and 90,000? And what if this return was somewhere, instead of 10,000, somewhere between 8 and 20,000? Then how much would it vary? And so, hey, we're going to vary it. So what happens if the year zero cash flow varies from 40,000 to 90,000? We have a negative sign, say it's a cash outflow. And we're going to say the step is 10,000. So we want it to be evaluated at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. And we want the cash inflows to be between 8 and 20,000. Now we could specify the step there as well, but we'll just kind of leave it with this and see what that looks like. So given that, we're giving ChatGPT this information and asking it to kind of compute all of these scenarios. I like to call this sensitivity analysis. We're saying, how sensitive are these internal rate of returns, these R's we're calculating, how sensitive are they to different assumptions? Because sometimes we don't know exactly what it's going to be. It's just going to be an assumption. And so here's a number of scenarios that it's providing us, and we can go and look at that. And we'd like to actually see, instead of these extremes, I'd like to see a heat map and see what that looks like. So I'm going to ask it to please provide a heat map, and so that I can see all those scenarios at once. So we'll let that compute that. So here's the heat map, and we can actually ask it for labels or something else, but here's the internal rate of return. And you would guess is if it costs more and if the annual cash inflow is smallest, that we're going to have the most negative return. And we could also ask it to label those cells and take a look at that. And so you can see, hey, add the IRR values inside each cell. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and ask it to provide that, even though it's not in the specs of the lab. But then we're able to see more exactly what these look like in a single visualization. So it's coming through here and now explaining. Now this isn't maybe the easiest way to see it. I could change up the colors or the heat map. Oftentimes it counts as like most red to be negative and the most positive to be green, but you can kind of see the gradations there. The next thing we're going to do is just go ahead and export this as a PDF file. Now we could just go ahead and download and click here, but that just gives it a rather generic name like output, and we might want something more specific. So let's go ahead and ask it to go ahead and output that heat map, and I'm going to be real specific about what I want it to be in this heat map. So let's go ahead and, hey, let's tell it specifically. The reason I get so specific about what I want the number to be is, it's really easy to create these, and you could do 100 of them. and I'd like you to be able to go back and say, hey, this is specifically what we got, or even provide some assumptions that we had suggested. So we're going to say enable it something specific, and then once that's done, and that'll output to our file, but we're just going to ask it to output the prompts. So please output the prompts in a Word file and label it Lab 124 GenAI prompts. Okay, so here's, we can go and click on that. We can ask for higher resolution, and we can also ask it to output the prompts. So if I want, I can just go and click on that, and it will upload that. And then the same thing here, we could get it to a Word file. And we can open up that Word file and complete this lab.